Hi, this is Lainey Cameron. I am so excited to be here with my friend Jennifer Klepper, who is the USA Today best-selling author of Unbroken Threads. Hey.
Hello, thanks for having me today, Lainey.
Well, I love this novel. You know that because I've told you this since it came out, how fabulous it is. I love how you hit on like the humanity of the immigrant crisis and an immigrant in the US and the relationship with a lawyer who's kind of coming back from being a stay-at-home mom for a while, and she's got her own insecurities around that. But talk to me more about Unbroken Threads and like the inspiration behind the book.
Sure. So I haven't volunteered in immigration law myself. I am trained as a lawyer and practice as a corporate attorney. But I did do a lot. I have done a lot of volunteer work that allowed me to connect with people with backgrounds and experiences completely different from my own. And I think one of the things that I learned is how important stories are and how important hearing other people's stories is to building connections. And that was a huge theme for me in writing the book, is that we need to tell our stories, we need to listen to stories, and that's what connects us across cultures, across continents, across generations and time. And I had both of those things going in my novel, the connection through the generations and of my main character, Jessica, through family stories and heirlooms, but also the connections that were able to be built between her and Amina, who she decides to represent in an asylum case.
And let's take a quick peek at one review here, which is from Amanda Skinandor. How do you say Amanda's name correctly? Skinandor, right?
Yes.
Who's got the beautiful novel Between Earth and Sky. And I love how she captures that your book is an honest and intimate portrayal of the American response to the Syrian refugee crisis, by turns harrowing and heartwarming. It's a powerful and important novel that book clubs and discussion groups will relish. And for what it's worth, I actually went and looked at some of the reviews to see what were the most popular words that come up when your book is being talked about. And this is beautiful. Inspiring, optimistic, compelling, and moving were the top words that came up in reviews about this book.
That's one thing that's really kind of neat on the Amazon review page, is how they do pull those keywords. I don't like to look at reviews, but when I have seen the keyword pull, it's always been intriguing to me, because I know everybody comes to a book with their own life experience. So everybody reads a book differently. And so the commonalities really do jump out.
Yeah, and don't we all want to write a book that inspires others? That's such an achievement, not to mention the USA Today bestseller, also a huge achievement.
Thank you.
So how did this book change, right? We all know that like books editing can last forever and feel like you're never going to come out the other side. So how did this one change during editing compared to the original versions?
I can mention two things. Amina's character grew so much. Her chapters were the ones that I really enjoyed writing the most, and so she became more and more of a force in the story, and through the editing process. And much of that is because I had so much to learn, and I had to do a lot of research for that character to develop. And the other is there's an entire backstory to Jessica, the main character's, her family and her family history and how they came over to America. I mean, there's a whole historical fiction book in there that I did have lots of that in the book that ended up getting pulled out in the end. It didn't fit, but I have it all in my head.
Do you think you'd ever make that into a separate book with her story before?
No, I won't, but I did think about it. What would that book look like? And it would have taken place back in the late 1800s, early 1900s in Iowa. So I've thought through it, and it was fun to think through, but historical fiction isn't my jam for writing, so it's not going to happen.
Maybe it's someone else's book to write.
Exactly.
So have you had a chance to read recently? Do you get much reading time, and any favorites if so?
I read all the time. I am reading, I'll stick to women's fiction because I read all kinds of stuff. But for this podcast or this interview, I'll mention I'm reading Alison Hammer's new book, which is Little Pieces of Me, and it's not out yet. But and I just started it, so I don't know much except that it's family secrets exposed through DNA results, and I know I'm going to love it. It starts off strong, and it's pulled me right in. And I have to say, Alison Hammer is a force. She is a giver and she is a doer. And her spirit comes through so clearly in her writing that it's just, I love reading it because I feel like I'm connecting with her, which is a lot
And
of
she's
fun.
so talented that, I mean, she's one of my favorite friends as a writer and as a friend overall. And she is so dang talented. Every time I read her books, I'm like, oh, I wish I could write like that, but that's okay. This is Allison. She's so good. And that book I actually read, I read an early copy of it, like even before it was in like advanced reader copies. And I have the ARC to reread so I can see how it changed because it's such a good book.
Well, I will mention I'm listening on The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and it is luscious. It's just gorgeous. So if you haven't read that, I highly recommend it as well.
Perfect.
And that's out.
I'll add that one to my list too. So any advice for writers? I mean, hey, you brought out your debut and you made USA Today bestseller list. So come on, what can you give? What can you advise people earlier in the journey?
Well, I bet we agree that the most important thing is to find community. Find a writer author community. And that, I don't care what level you are, where you are in the process, finding a group of people who are doing the same thing, who are experiencing the same things is just critical, both for learning and being a mentee and being a mentor and commiserating and celebrating and having a group of people where you can just land there and know you feel like home, you're at home. So that is key. That's the most important thing.
And you and I are both really involved with Women's Fiction Writers Association as one example.
Exactly. That was my first community. So
awesome. Well, let's take a peek at where readers can connect with you. Readers and other authors and writers can connect with you. On Instagram, you're at Jennifer_Klepper and JenniferKlepper.com for all your other ways to connect with folks.
Yes, I would say Instagram's probably my favorite social media. I'm on most of them, but Instagram's my favorite.
Perfect. And do you have a newsletter as well?
I have an email list and I've sent out a few newsletters. So people can sign up and they're guaranteed not to get one for a while. But I will send one. I will send one when I have news on my next book, which I'm working on right now. It's not ready to go, but it's coming along and I love it.
Do you want to tell us anything about it?
It's inspired by something my husband and his friends did after college, except I changed the entire cast to female and nothing else happens at all the same as what happened to my husband.
So, well, I know a tiny bit about it, so I know I'm really excited to see this one as well. So, well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jennifer.
It was a pleasure to see you, Lainey. I hope I get to see you in person soon.
Yes,
this year.
This year, I really hope so.
Yes.
Take care.
Okay, bye.